What's up, guys? I'm Lucy. 5 things that are a do not do with horses. This is kind of a part 2 to my 5 common mistakes video, but I'll show you the what not to do and how to do it right. So here's a list of 5 things not to do. Number 1 is sadly a super common one, probably made by ignorant people that have never been taught not to and don't know why doing this is bad. And that is placing your noseband, this part of the halter, too low on your horse's face. It doesn't matter if it's a halter, hackamore, bitless bridle, flash, anything that goes around the horse's nose and puts pressure on it should never be on this part of the horse's nose. This, way too low. This, still too low. This, getting better. Right here is perfect. 2 fingers below the cheekbone is usually a good rule of thumb. The reason you want to absolutely avoid this area is because this is called the nasal bone. And if you look at the anatomy of a horse's bone structure in their face, you can see that the nasal bone gets really thin down here, and then the rest of this, what feels like bone to us, is actually just soft cartilage that can easily be broken. So we really want to keep everything off of this area right here. Number 2 is a leading mistake. Now, take it or leave it if you want, because this isn't exactly harming the horse in any way. It could be dangerous to you, and it's not great for your training. So we're just going to go over it. It's super common, everybody does it. It's just the modern way that people have taught other people how to handle horses, and it's kind of a safety hazard if you ask me. So the normal modern way of handling a horse is to lead them with your hands with a nice grip right underneath their chin, and you're just going to drag them around like this, or sometimes they drag you around. And they get high and prancy and their head comes way up here, and they're swinging their head around your face because you're keeping them right next to you. Some reasons why this can be bad is because, well, for one, you're keeping the horse right smack next to you. So if they're spooking or anything, they have to run into you in order to get away because you're holding them right here. You feel like you have control over them because you're holding them right here nice and secure, but in reality, they're a lot bigger, a lot stronger than you, and if they wanted to, they will plow you over. So this is not actually safer and does not actually give you more control. Another reason why it's bad is because you're going to be dulling your horse to this pressure. We want our horses to be really sensitive to pressure so that they move off of it really easily from the lightest touch, because that makes handling a horse easier. When we train them to light pressure and they move off of it, that is really helpful for us, so we don't have to manhandle them everywhere we go because they're stronger than us. Obviously, we can put painful chains and gadgets on our horses to make them move off of pain instead of pressure, but that's not really what I would like to do. And obviously, holding your horse like this is going to make them more uptight and nervous because it makes them feel more restricted. So they're gonna have less confidence and they're just gonna be more nervous all around. So the correct way to lead a horse, in my opinion, is to have at least 2 or 3 feet of line between your hand and your horse, if not more. But since your horse might be used to being led like this, it might take them a while to be able to be led like this. Maybe a lot of people assume that they don't have to train their horse how to lead, but just like anything else, you have to teach your horse how to be led. It's not something they automatically know how to do. So you might think, oh, my horse would run me over or run away from me or be super distracted or eat tons of grass or whatever if I gave them line, but it's something you teach them how to do. It's not something they automatically know how to do. So if your horse is doing that, you need to train them how to do it properly. Hey look, I got a saddle. That's because number 3 has to do with saddle pad placement. There's somebody recently saying that my saddle pad was not in the correct place, that it needed to be further back or something, but that's not true. I'm not gonna bother taking my saddle off and putting my saddle pad in the wrong place to demonstrate, because that's just a lot of work. But what I see a lot is people placing their saddle pads too far back. Usually it's because they have the wrong size saddle pad for their saddle, so they have to make up the extra space by putting it in the back. But the correct placement for your saddle pad is to basically just have it evenly spaced on your saddle. So you're gonna want the same distance of overhang on your saddle pad as the front to the back. So about 2 inches on my saddle pad. And my saddle pad has the wither relief, and it also has the cutout for the latigo to sit in. So it makes it easier for me to know that my saddle pad is in the correct spot. Also, always tent your saddle pads. Somebody said that if I have to tent my saddle pad, that means my saddle doesn't fit correctly, and that's definitely not true. A well-fitting saddle will still cause a saddle pad to pinch on the wither if you don't tent the saddle pad, because it has nothing to do with saddle fit. It's just the pressure of a saddle being on the pad is just going to put extra pressure on your horse's wither here, and it's not going to feel good. So just tent your saddle pad. I don't care I don't care, just tense your saddle pad. So yeah, I don't recommend having a saddle pad that's a lot larger than your saddle. Also, I recommend getting a saddle pad with a rhythm relief because we want to make sure that nothing is touching that part of the horse's back. Number 4 is a mounting mistake. Let's just quickly demonstrate the mistake and then we can talk about it. So this is quite common and it's quite painful on the horse. But what they do is they grab the saddle horn and the back of the saddle and they pull the saddle to pull themselves up. My saddle's not very tight, so it's slipping. Now, that is going to put a lot of strain on your horse's spine and it's going to be very uncomfortable for them and it's just not good. It's not cool. So the proper way to mount, or the way I mount, and it's obviously super gentle on the horse because I can do it without my cinch being up, is I put a hand on the neck, I put my other hand on the back of the tree on the saddle, and then I put my foot in the stirrup. I kind of twist myself so that my knee is facing the horse, and I just pull on the horse's neck and on the side of the saddle. So I'm not pulling up here because that'll pull the saddle off. And then yeah, I just get on like that. It's super easy. I can do it without a cinch being up, and I'm not throwing my horse around and putting tons of unnecessary pressure on their spine. And yeah, so none of this, more of this. And number 5 is being off-centered with your horse. I see this a lot in every discipline, beginners, intermediates, professionals. I'm pretty sure I've seen it in every one of those categories. Now, it's probably most commonly caused by an ill-fitting saddle, but it could also be a rider without core balance, or any balance for that matter, and that's just sitting off-centered. And this is why I'm an advocate for bareback riding. Not a lot because it's not great for you or the horse, but it's great for your core balance and it will train this bad habit out of you, and it will help you notice if your saddle is ill-fitting so you can catch this and fix it. Because if you're riding bareback, you are going to sit centered. You're not going to sit halfway up the horse like this. You're not going to sit this way. You're going to sit centered. You're going to sit with the horse's spine in between your seat bones. You're not going to be sitting with your seat bone on the horse's spine because that would be very uncomfortable. But when we're riding in a saddle that is too loose or not fitting properly, it's super easy to slide off to the side just slightly like this, where our hip is sticking out a little bit this way, our back is just dipped in a little bit here, not really noticeable at all. But if you look from the back or the front, you see that my left foot is hanging down just a little bit lower than my right foot. And if you look behind yourself, you'll see that the center of your saddle pad and your saddle will be very off-centered to your horse's spine. Now, it's easy for me to tell because my horse has a dorsal stripe, so pretty easy to line up the lines, but the dorsal stripe isn't always exactly centered to the horse's spine, so we have to be careful with that. So when you saddle up your horse, just make sure that the center of your saddle pad, the spine relief center of your pad, if your pad has a spine relief, should be centered with your saddle's channel that goes down the middle of the saddle. So if you're riding sideways like this is putting a lot of pressure on the horse's spine. You might even be sitting on the horse's spine, which is super uncomfortable for them, to the point where you'll probably create some sort of issue. It's also putting a lot of pressure on the front shoulder. You're probably digging into the wither, putting excess weight on this shoulder. So if you're riding in an arena or on a trail ride or something, just have somebody look out for you and maybe video you so that you can see if you're riding sideways, and it'll be just very, very subtle. So you have to kind of train your eye for what it looks like. If you're riding in a trail ride, have somebody behind you keeping an eye on you, and keep an eye on the people in front of you and see if they're riding straight. It's super easy to tell from the back because you can see the horse's spine, and if it lines up with the saddle channel and the saddle pad. It's also easy to see the bend in your back if you're leaning sideways. You won't have a straight back, you'll have a curve to your back, and the levelness of your feet. If your one foot is lower than your other foot, then you're probably leaning to the side. So just be aware and maybe train your eye for what it looks like if you're sitting slightly sideways, because it can cause back pain for you and for your horse. And we're trying to keep our horses as healthy as possible because fixing them is extremely expensive and sometimes impossible. So we try to do the best to keep our horses fit, healthy, strong, structurally sound, and happy. So yeah, that's it for this video, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a big like and subscribe. I post new videos every single Sunday, and you can go follow me on Instagram and TikTok, and I will see you guys